Wes Anderson is here.
Wes, how are you? Congratulations on the film.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom. Thanks for having me.
To 350 degrees Fahrenheit, grease and flour, a 9.5-inch baking pan.
I mean, the very first day, you know, Wes kind of like waves at you from the hotel, from his little balcony, and then you get in a golf cart with him and strap your seatbelt on and start driving through the streets of Potsdam to the set with the hair or the wind blowing in your hair. And that's never happened to me before.
Gently melt the butter and chocolate in the top part of a double boiler. Set aside to cool to room temperature.
Director Wes Anderson is here.
And do you pay attention to the reviews and to the box office and to the...
Well,
Wes Anderson is one of the most notorious filmmakers of all time. And with that notoriety comes haters. But Wes Anderson doesn't care.
Beat the eggs and sugar until thick and lemon colored, add vanilla.
Like, people always refer to my movies as quirky, and they think the characters are weird. And for me, I can understand that point of view about them, but almost every character in any movie I've ever made is based on somebody in real life or based on a combination of real people. So even if I take it to a slightly odd place, to me, those are all real people, and they're characters that mean something to me beyond. I'm not interested in the quirks. I'm interested in the whole sum of the character.
6. Fold the chocolate mixture into the eggs and sugar and mix thoroughly. 7. Sift the flour and fold gently into the batter, mixing just until blended.
Throughout the course of his career, Anderson has made a total of a dozen narrative features among a number of shorts and narrative commercials for brands. Every film adds a chapter in Wes's journey as a filmmaker, his style developing more with every piece of the puzzle. He will make the movie he wants to make regardless of the opinions of others. Wes has reached a sort of escape velocity in his career. It no longer really matters what he does. Wes will make the movie he wants to make regardless of the outcome. He continues to get funding for his future films regardless of how the past ones have done at the box office. A-list talent continue to throw themselves at him, often for free, just for the opportunity to be in one of his films.
I read the script, but the script was so precisely written. I mean, you could tell that this guy knew exactly what he was doing. Yeah. And you knew exactly what he wanted to make, exactly how he wanted each scene to go. And I've never really seen one that was that precise. I looked at it and I went, this is different. This guy knows exactly what he's doing, and I'll go with it. Anybody that can write that well, I feel confident in.
No, we couldn't pay him. We wrote it for him, but we thought we weren't going to get him because we thought we couldn't afford him. We thought we wouldn't be able to get to him, get him to read it, or any of that kind of stuff.
Wes's name is known and either loved or hated in just about every household in the world. Thinking back on my time in film school, I remember every time a shot had symmetry or any thought put behind the color, his name would come up. People would utter his name like it was a distinct style, which, to be fair, it is, but to say that a shot that is symmetrical is a quote-unquote Wes Anderson shot is a little ridiculous.
every time I release a trailer for the next one, the first thing I hear is you could tell it was me in the first 10 seconds. And I've had to accept that that is simply true. I think it's more like handwriting or something. It's you know, my identity. I can't change my handwriting. It's just the way it comes out when I move my hand across, when I move my pencil across the paper. And I don't, you know, I even though I'm trying to make decisions to do something different every time and surprise myself and anyone else, I sort of accept that I have a certain kind of voice that happens to be quickly identifiable.
Wes did not invent symmetry. He may have more or less popularized it, but symmetry has always existed in film. I think it is a little ridiculous how well known him and symmetry have become. Unlike some directors who shoot in many different styles of film, Wes sticks to a very specific, regimented style. It is an aesthetic that is easily recognizable, but I don't think he cares. What's more is it is not entirely the cinematography that makes them a Wes Anderson film. A ton of this distinct aesthetic has to do with how they are written and performed. On the topic of performance, we should talk about how many of the A-list talent that are in Wes Anderson's films regularly do not do so for a paycheck. Rather, some of them don't get paid at all, or if they do, it is way down the line after the film has made its money. There really aren't any directors in Hollywood other than Anderson, and save for a few others, that can get away with not paying huge names to be in their films. And this allows Anderson's films to be made on a pretty tiny budget comparatively. Additionally, given Anderson's films are not really made for that broad of an audience, it is fascinating how he can just continue to get financing for these films. But if we actually break down the numbers, it can be a very interesting conversation. For example, the Grand Budapest Hotel was made with a budget of $25 million, then made a gross $172 million at the box office. If we assume that we double the film's budget to pay for marketing, which is often the case, that means the film may have profited well over $100 million. So it's safe to assume Wes would have made a decent chunk of money from the Grand Budapest Hotel after all of the studios took their portion of the pie. But does he really care? All he cares about is making the films that he wants to make in the way that he wants to make them. And that's it. I don't think he cares about making money from his films. I don't think he cares about appeasing the studios with his films. I don't think he cares about appeasing critics with his films. I think he just cares about making them the best they can be in his style. And that style is meticulous, from visuals to sound design. Sound design? What, like music and sound effects? His are very well chosen and perfectly fit every scene. Do you want perfect, royalty-free music and sound effects for your videos? Thanks to this video's sponsor, Audio, you can have unlimited royalty-free music and sound effects for a whole year for just $59. Audio is a one-stop shop for royalty-free music and sound effects at one of the best prices I've ever seen. Because beautiful images are just beautiful images without good sound and music. I don't remember who it was who said it, but sound is half the picture. And if you do anything related to video or film, you need a great source of good sound. There are thousands of tracks and really intuitive tools that make finding the perfect piece of music or sound effect for your project simple and effortless. For example, Hans AI. Now, honestly, I'm pretty on the fence about a lot of AI tools, but this one is pretty cool. Rather than replacing the artists with AI, Audio has made it easier to find the perfect track using this technology. You just describe what you want, and it gives it to you. What's more is you can get an entire year of Audio Pro for just $59. That's 70% off of full price. And that's just for being a viewer of this channel. If you want that price, just use the link below and enter my code MaxwellB at checkout. Thanks again so much to Audio for sponsoring this video. Now back to Wes. Wes's ethos of not really caring about anything other than making the best possible film has really forged his career in my mind. I really don't think he would have found the success he did without it. And now I'm going to jump into something pretty interesting to me, and that being one of Wes's longest time and closest collaborators, Owen Wilson.
Oh wow, hey, it's one of your little drawings. There you go, pole vaults over the thing, here you go.
Owen got in at the ground floor, so to speak. And you could say vice versa. Owen Wilson and Wes Anderson were college roommates.
Wow, right?
Wilson made his feature film acting debut in Anderson's feature film directing debut, Bottle Rocket. It is fascinating how they both went on to do great things together and separately after this film. One might look on the surface of this and think, well, obviously Wes took off. He had an A-list celebrity in his debut feature film. But since Wilson was a nobody at the time as well, I believe that point is moot. They both came up together. What is fascinating is how Anderson went on to command a legion of A-list actors just 5 years later. I think it is not in a small part because of Wilson that he was able to do this, because in between these films, Wilson blew up, acting in a dozen films, none of which were all that small. Wilson worked with Ben Stiller a handful of times in this mix, who went on to be another piece of Anderson's puzzle. I think this is one of the most fascinating pieces of Hollywood networking to me. The fact that both of these people went on to become household names, separate from each other, while also working together. It makes me think about my college roommates and the amount of projects we created together while in college, and then thinking about the potential of us all going off and working on our own things outside of each other, and then perhaps in a few years coming back together and bringing in all of the people we've met outside of school to then create something down the line. Obviously, I can't really compare myself and my college roommates to Wes Anderson and Owen Wilson. I think that's ridiculous. We're not even remotely close to being on the same caliber as those legends, but it's interesting because you never really know what the future holds for anyone. So I think it's really valuable to never underestimate anyone. It also brings up the age-old conversation about whether film school is worth it or not. I've always been in the camp that film school is valuable beyond the degree that you get because, frankly, the degree is pretty worthless. But the people you might meet in film school might be worth the ticket price. I don't think it can be denied that film school was worth it for both Wes Anderson and Owen Wilson. Perhaps they might have both gone on to be successful separate from each other if they weren't college roommates, but it certainly worked out pretty well the way that it happened. I think college is such a formidable time in one's life, perhaps one of the most important times. It shapes who someone is not only as a creative, but as a person. It is a length of time where your responsibilities are limited to only your schoolwork and maybe a part-time job. You have more time freedom than many will ever have again in their lives, which lends itself to creation and, perhaps more importantly, collaboration. It is a time where a young filmmaker begins to find their voice, but perhaps more importantly, it is when they find out what their voice is not. They find out what disciplines they want to focus on and which ones they want to stay away from. Film school was the place that I found cinematography, which is now my lifelong love and goal. And it is where Wilson found acting, and Anderson found writing and directing. Then they left and made history. But Anderson doesn't care. Wes just wants to make his movies. And he can, and likely always will, be able to. The few financial successes of his career have afforded him an infinite career. Like I said earlier, he has reached an escape velocity, a level of creative excellence and notoriety where he can afford to do just about anything. He can afford to not care, and perhaps that is something to work towards for the rest of us. Because isn't the dream not the financial success, but to be able to make the films we want to make without having to think about the money? The money, of course, is a huge upside to something doing quote-unquote well. But isn't the whole point to make more movies that we want to make? We only want to make more money from these movies because we don't want to have to get another job to be able to afford to keep making movies. Am I going in circles here? Maybe, but I think you get my point. All I know is, although some may not love Wes's films, I'm a fan and can enjoy them for what they are. So let's all go watch one later, huh? Just take it in. Don't think too much, but not too little either. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.